Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Be on the Panel. For the first time in months, we're doing consecutive episodes.
Yay.
Hell yeah. Consistency, baby. My name's Colin.
I'm Jared.
Before we get started, I want to just thank you guys for the just like really great response to last week's Spider-Man episode. Currently, it is our most viewed, most watched, whatever episode, and that's just really big to me. It's not the biggest thing ever, but for us, we're really happy about it. You know,
Either you really like us, or you really don't like Zeb Wells.
I hope that it's you really don't like Zeb Wells, but you ended up really liking us at the end. No, it was really nice to just see something that we care so much about.
It's encouraging.
Yeah, get some recognition and resonate with people. So yeah, thank you so much. As always, if you're watching or listening to this, liking, commenting, or rating, reviewing if you're on the podcatchers is the best way to help us increase our discoverability, because it basically jives with algorithms and recommends us to people like you. Right, so like let's say on the podcast app you give us 5 stars. It's like, oh, Johnny gave this 5 stars, and he also listens to this. I guess we'll recommend this to other listeners of X podcast, and so on and so forth. And same with YouTube, and algorithms are great, but yeah, liking and commenting and just that really helps a lot. So yeah, without further ado, though, today we wanted to be a little more positive in regards to the character of Spider-Man. Because he is very near and dear to both of us.
Yeah, he's my, I want to say, 3rd or 4th favorite character overall. I mean, Spider-Man is my second favorite, is my favorite.
Yeah,
it's Miguel.
Miguel. Sorry, not Miles.
Peter's like 4th or 5th, I want to say, in terms of like characters I like.
Peter is my 1st or 2nd, and it just really depends on the day.
Yeah,
it's either him or Cap, but like Spider-Man was the first superhero I was ever like truly exposed to that I can remember.
I think same for me, actually.
Like I vividly recall and know that Spider-Man comics were the first comics I ever read. My dad had like a handful, like maybe like 12 old issues of Spider-Man just scattered about, some What If issues, a Clone Saga follow-up miniseries, some Venom issues, and Spider-Man 300, whatever. And so I remember just reading and rereading those. And then, but yeah, my first real introduction to any comic characters, period, was the 90s Spider-Man show, because they would release batches of episodes on VHS and we'd go rent them and watch them. And that was, for me, yeah, like, I don't think I'd be into comics or superheroes or anything of that nature if it wasn't for that. I mean, I probably still would be, but that was...
This is going to be sacrilegious, but I have not actually watched all the way through the 90s Spider-Man show. I really need to.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Right. You have to. For me. Like, for me, just do it. It's a fun watch. We should actually do an episode where we talk about it, because it's just so special to me. It's not as good as Spectacular. I will say that. I'm not so blind as to think it is. Spectacular is something truly special. But this one is still really fun and is really close to my heart.
Very shaped in the 90s, but you can't help that.
It's very 90s and it's goofy, but they managed to do a lot of really deep cuts in it, you know? Like, it was the first place I saw Morbius. It was the first place I saw Blade, Doctor Strange.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of guest characters that haven't really done on screen anyway before.
And yeah, I think that it's such a great like intro to everything, because it's like, no, you get everything, and they hit every major Spider-Man villain except Sandman at least once. Like they really, and it defined the alien costume. Like it defined Venom for years.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because not everyone knows this, but in the original run of comics, the symbiote did not do any sort of aggression increasing to Peter, and the only reason he got rid of it was because it was basically taking him out for joyrides and was going to bond with him. He's like, oh, that's creepy, I don't like that. But in the animated series, in the cartoon, they were like, what if it did that, but also, you know, made it like gave him
Just
all this
cranks up
rage,
his emotions. Yeah.
and that became just like this defining point of the symbiote forevermore. And I think that's really cool. Like that's such
And
a
even
huge
just the origin
influence.
of it, like coming from space and
Yep.
like just hitting him was like, or in some way, it was different than how it actually was in the comics.
Yeah, and it
it's kind of been the
basically
basis for all the cinematic versions in some way or another.
yeah, it's basically the basis for any version that doesn't use Secret Wars.
Which so far, in terms of actual being on screen, like live action, has been all of them.
Yeah, well, yeah, in live action, in the live action, which is only one, it's been that, and then Venom, yeah, he came from space again, and then in Spectacular, it came from space on the shuttle again.
Yeah,
so it's very common, and yeah, it's a just really really influential series, really fun, banger of a theme song. But you should definitely watch it, and we'll talk about it. But yeah, so today we are going to do sort of our building blocks essentials for Spider-Man episode. We did one for Superman a while back, which was a lot of fun. And I think if you haven't heard it, it's definitely worth visiting. It gave us a chance to talk about a character that I feel like for all of his fame doesn't get enough love still.
Yeah, he really doesn't.
Like,
he's overshadowed. I mean, he's basically second fiddle to Batman.
He is in the shadow of the Bat at all times, and I love Batman. Batman is super cool, but in the older I get, and is really the more I like Superman.
I just recently finished the animated series for Superman, and it's really good.
Oh, nice! It's on my watch list.
It's a lot of fun.
I'm a few episodes in, and it's really really good. Superman's such a wonderful character, so definitely check that out. But today we get to talk about how Spider-Man is such a wonderful character, and you know, Zeb Wells, if you're listening to this, take notes, buddy. Okay? Just take some notes. You know, it won't hurt you. You can do it. Believe
and whoever's taking out, whoever is taking the book after Zeb Wells,
take notes too.
Good luck.
I on my heart, I want it to be Zdarsky.
I mean, is he wrapped up Daredevil already or no?
I don't know, but I also don't know when Wells is getting off the book.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know if it's another couple years away. Like I really, in my heart of hearts, would want it to be Chip because he knows the character so well.
I could see Jed McKay doing it too, but he's got a lot on his plate recently because his Moon Knight run's been great.
And didn't he just start writing Avengers?
He's doing Avengers, yeah.
Yeah, you can't write Avengers and Spider-Man. I think you'd burn out instantly.
If he steps off Avengers and does Spider-Man, I'd be happy and just have him do Spider-Man and Moon Knight.
Yeah, because like Moon Knight's not as like editorial driven.
No.
So I feel like that's a little less pressure. But like Spider-Man and Avengers are both such tentpoles that I feel like you just burn out real fast on both of them.
Yeah.
Don't be like Donny Cates and do Thor and Venom and Hulk and this and the other. Like, I love Donny, but I think he burnt himself out a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyways. So yeah, core tenets of what it takes to craft a compelling Spider-Man. Number 1, responsibility. Duh.
If you don't know the line, we can't help you.
Yeah.
What are you doing here?
We're not even going to say it because if you don't know it, come on.
Even the movies have tried to do it like 3 or 4 different ways.
If you could do good things for people, you have the moral obligation to do those things.
What's your heart, Martin Sheen?
That's what's at stake here. Not choice, responsibility. Like, yeah, I guess. Could you make
Martin
it
Sheen,
a little punchier?
A little wordy.
Dress it up
on
a
a green card.
No, I honestly think that they nailed the delivery of it in No Way Home the best.
Yeah, and honestly, I think even just in the first Spider-Man with Maguire was a good job too.
That was very like, because Uncle Ben never said the line until like flashbacks, but Peter was like, it got attributed to Uncle Ben, so there's no like official canon like, well, this was how it happened. And so in the movie with Maguire, I think it was good, but it was more, it just felt kind of out of nowhere. It was more just like, oh, you're changing and growing up, and there was no real like power to speak of in this instance. And then in The Amazing Spider-Man, it made sense because Peter screwed up and hadn't gone to get May. And
he's getting dressing down. Yeah,
and he was dressing him down, but like also trying to be encouraging and be like, look, if you can do things to help people, you have to do it. And then I really liked it in No Way Home because May knows he's Spider-Man, knows about the power. and actually delivers it dead on to how it was in Amazing Fantasy. Because she actually even did There Must Also Come.
Yeah.
So I honestly, I think all three of them are really good in their own ways, and fit the characters well. Pretty beautiful. However, responsibility is the core of Spider-Man. If your Spider-Man is consistently irresponsible, he's a bad Spider-Man.
He's not even really Spider-Man at all.
No. And I say consistently. I'm not saying that he has to make the right choice every single time, because no one can do that. And
no, he's human and he can slip.
He's supposed to be a very human character, yeah. But, consistently, he needs to be making those choices, even at his own detriment.
Yeah, at risk of injury or even death, he knows that if he has the opportunity and he has a chance to do the right thing and to save someone, he will take it. Like in a lot of ways, like Superman. But the thing is, it's more important for Spider-Man because more often than not, even though Spider-Man is quite powerful, he doesn't have the retinue of powers that Superman has, which makes it just as endearing, but not necessarily as what's the word I'm thinking of? It doesn't feel as impactful.
Yeah, there's more weight when Spidey does it, because Superman, only one person's ever even really been able to hurt Superman, and that was Doomsday. Spidey's dragging his broken body to bed half the week. He had almost all of his bone. He had multiple broken bones in the PS4 game, and still went out to do it.
The sacrifice means more when there's a risk of him not coming back from it.
And then even on the smaller risks, it's at risk of losing friends, losing loved ones, losing opportunities because, I'm on my way to do this great thing that I'm excited about. Oh, what's that? Someone needs help? I have to help them.
Yeah.
I have to help them, even though maybe right now it's not what I'd rather be doing. It's what I'm supposed to do, because the last time I didn't, Uncle Ben died.
Thankfully, this isn't really a problem that even if the Zeb Wells run, maybe most writers know to keep this core tenet, because without it, you've lost the character.
But that's it. It's why we're starting with it, is because it's the easiest to get. It defines the character, and it's why, if we are talking building blocks, even though this is such a gimme, we need to talk about it because it is the foundation for every choice Peter Parker makes is responsibility.
Yeah, everything stems from this core tenet of his character.
Yeah. And if he fails to be responsible, right, so now that we've covered responsibility, then you have another important aspect of Spider-Man, which is guilt.
Yeah, I mean, guilt's important because that was... Very nice.
Thank you.
I mean, the guilt element is equally as important because it's not just the responsibility of the power, but also it's, as part of his origin, it's the inherent, it was by his hand.
Yeah.
That inadvertently by his own hand, he lost one of his loved ones.
Yes.
You can say Batman took up the crusade to fight crime because he lost his parents, but
that wasn't his fault.
He was a child. He couldn't have done anything.
Peter was 15. He was basically on a power trip and should have known better. And he knows that. And
tying in, these two things are kind of intertwined, the guilt and responsibility, because
totally.
He not forsook, but he shirked his responsibility to stop the thief. And because of that, it gave him the guilt.
Yeah.
That was caused by Uncle Ben dying. And now those things are tied around each other so tightly that you can't really have one without the other, because it is the driving motivation. He does the right thing, but he's not doing it just to avoid being guilty. It's just that's what kicked it all off. And now he does the right thing because he knows it's the right thing to do. And if he doesn't,
he feels guilty.
Not because he's afraid of feeling guilty. He's just not just worried about repercussions, but he knows that it's another weight on his soul.
Yeah.
And not necessarily it's going to be, he's not just trying to avoid judgment or anything like that, or avoid anything bad. He doesn't want anything to happen. He doesn't want what he did, his mistake, to repeat itself.
Yeah.
And he knows that he needs to do his best to avoid it. And that it's just that core, to take from Across the Spider-Verse, it's the canon event that really drives him more than anything else.
Yeah, for sure.
That that guilt is what will push him forward for the rest of his life, so that no one else feels what he felt at losing his uncle.
And like it probably ends up looking to a lot of people in the world with him that he's just like has this chronic hero syndrome, like just this constant need to be the hero and to save people for his own adulation, edification, and glory. But it's not that. It's because he knows that he can help them, and the fact that he can means that he should. And he knows that, and it comes up even outside of the costume. There's lots of instances where, and I'm going to use Spectacular Spider-Man as an example, because that is, in my opinion, one of the best written versions of Spider-Man ever.
For sure.
Here, I think like things we're end up talking about a lot is Spectacular Spider-Man, the J. Michael Straczynski run, and the Insomniac game.
Mm-hmm.
Because those three, I think, got it more than anything. But in Spectacular Spider-Man, Peter he just starts making money, taking photos of himself for the Bugle, and Robbie Robertson is like, hey, get yourself a better camera, you can get better shots, make more money. And Peter does, and realizes that May is swimming in bills, and he feels guilty about having the camera, and he's waffling back and forth. And at the end of it, he ends up pawning off the camera to give May money to help, and her, being the saint-like woman she is, doesn't want to accept it. He insists, and she's like, okay, then I'll take this, and you put some aside for a new camera then. And
it's not a compromise.
He knows that there's that responsibility to help his loved ones. And so bringing him to his loved ones, because I'm just going to be the king of segues here, his supporting cast, excuse me. There we go. His supporting cast is so essential to him. I would wager more than honestly any other comic character.
I think he has the largest amount of supporting characters that matter, because for Batman it's really just Gordon and the Bat family.
Yeah.
For Superman it's Jimmy and Lois and maybe Perry.
Yeah.
And then for a lot of the other big ones, like, yeah, for sure, because it's Spider-Man, it's Aunt May, it's Jonah, it's Mary Jane, it's Gwen when she was around, it's Harry, and it's
Norman. Some of his villains are even supporting cast. Like,
oh yeah,
it's May, Harry, Gwen, MJ, Norman, Jonah, Robbie, Betty, Flash, Liz, just Randy, and it's what I think makes them more unique and more alive than, let's say, the Bat family is all these people have their own relationships with each other.
It's a cohesive world that feels lived in, and they have interactions with each other. You can have Aunt May talking to Jonah, or you can have Mary Jane and Aunt May spending time together.
Or Peter's friends with Randy, who's Robbie's son, right? Yeah. And so there's that connection there, and it's just all these sort of like in this interwoven tapestry of characters that all elevate the character of Spider-Man. And I think that if you want to put together a good Spider-Man story, you need to be aware of that and like decide who you're going to use and how you're going to use them ahead of time.
Look, yeah, you can have a story that's entirely just Peter fighting some villain, but it's because his civilian life is, I think I'm kind of skipping ahead to some points, but
it's okay.
Because his human side of it and his non-hero side is just as important to him for the most part. You need that cast, so it's not just him in isolation all the time.
Yeah.
Because that's where the drama stems from, and that is usually, more often than not, it's the back and forth of he's interacting with a villain, and because of that stuff, that's hindering or harming his relationship with the people he cares about in his supporting cast. And usually, the drive to stop the villain is fueled partially by him wanting to protect and the safety of his supporting cast as well.
The Raimi films really nailed
feed
that.
Each other in a loop.
Yeah, the Raimi films nailed that so well, with like Norman being like, the Goblin's a bad guy, I have to stop him. Oh no, the Goblin is Harry's dad, and now he's dead. But Harry thinks I did it, so Harry hates Spider-Man, but he doesn't know I'm Spider-Man. No, now he knows I'm Spider-Man. right? And it's all
Harry
of that
wants Peter
interplay.
to talk to Spider-Man to get his blood for this thing or whatever, and then but he doesn't know that he doesn't know that Peter's Spider-Man. Then he finds out, and then that drives Harry to enlist Doc Ock, and Doc Ock puts Aunt May in harm's way, and it's constant feedback loop of these things round and around each other.
And so or like in Spectacular Spider-Man, like a lot of the villains, not all of them, but like are people he knew. Like Eddie Brock in the Ultimate Universe is a former childhood friend of Peter's. In the Spectacular one, they were really close. It makes Venom hit harder because this is my friend. This is a guy who at times was my only friend.
He's angry because he got called out on a false story.
Yeah, which I honestly I don't think hits nearly as hard. As them having an existing relationship. It's also super ominous having Venom just call him bro. Like, ooh, okay, chills. Yeah. It's kind of creepy. You know, something that's so normally like a term of endearment being used in such an ominous way. But yeah, like spinning out of that, so like the supporting cast is super duper important because like you said, that life is like it's you need a good balance of in and out of the suit, right? Captain America. Honestly, you don't need too terribly much of him as Steve.
No.
You still need some of it, but for the most part, we're here to see Cap be Cap. And he's always Cap.
Like Iron Man, you have some stuff with him, like, you know, he's doing with the company or whatever, but most of the time the fun is when he's Iron Man.
Yeah, but it's also, another thing with that is, though, like, Steve Rogers, public identity. Tony Stark, public identity. Spider-Man, secret identity.
Mm-hmm.
You know? There's no reason for, like... No one is intentionally intersecting Peter and Spider-Man other than with the pictures. But Peter knows about this intersection. So he's screwed, right? When a villain chases down Peter Parker because, and they're not going to kill him, but it's, you tell Spider-Man to meet me here, right? Something like that.
Or sometimes they do know, like the biggest drama, the whole reason Gwen died is because Norman remembered that Peter was Spider-Man.
Actually, it's because his kids.
We're not talking about that.
It's because he had implanted memories. No, but yeah, like Norman knowing that Peter is Spider-Man is what drove him to grab his girlfriend, right?
And again, going back to Spectacular, that drama, because Eddie knew that he was Spider-Man as well.
Yeah. And used that to manipulate him and used the feelings from the symbiote to be like, oh, you love Gwen. And he's like, yeah, of course I do. She's my best friend. No, you love her. It's like, oh, thanks, Venom. I didn't do romantic epiphany while we're fighting, but all right. We'll deal with that first, and then I guess I'll tell her how I feel. No, but yeah, just all that stuff for like him having to flake out on a date because Doc Ock's on the rampage again. And then how am I going to explain that? How are they going to feel, right? How is that going to impact the character going forward? Right.
It's something that's been a part of him since the very beginning, because he was relatable in the beginning because he's just like in his civilian life, he's a meek teenager who has trouble with girls and gets bullied and picked on by the other kids in high school, but he has this great power that no one knows about. And that's why people flock to him so much, is because unlike Superman or Batman, like in DC at the time, you have a billionaire who's running with cool gadgets. Or you got really Superman,
or a reporter who's awesome and has a hot girlfriend.
Like, this is kind of a side tangent, but at a point, not long after Superman was created, Fawcett Comics created Shazam, or Captain Marvel at the time.
Yeah,
and he ended up outselling Superman. Who was he was performing better than Superman because the Billy Batson side of things was driving comics for kids who saw themselves in Billy and was like, it's just a kid like them having adventures, becoming superhero. And that drew the sales up. And that's why DC eventually bought Fawcett Comics and bought Captain Marvel, because, oh crap, they're doing better than us because they're selling the premise better and they're connecting to the kids better.
Well, and I think like, Spider-Man, like not outside of like universe, Spider-Man being relatable to just your common person is important. Not necessarily the kids, because we talked about that last week, where if you're focusing too much on how to make him appeal to kids, you're going to regress the character. But remembering that at his core, he's not a billionaire. It was cool to have him be one for a little while, but he's not that. He's not the best. He's just a really smart guy who loves his family and friends. And most people can relate to something there, you know?
The only thing extraordinary about Peter as a character, like actual Peter, is that he's very smart. Yeah.
Yeah. Is his genius level intellect, and that's just
which isn't even really used very often, aside from just he makes gadgets for himself.
Which that's another thing that is important though, is the character Spider-Man needs to be intelligent.
Oh, 100%.
If you have a Spider-Man that's just a regular dude, no, the genius level intellect is actually essential to the character. It allows him to make deductions, allows him to make gadgets, allows him to identify with scientists a lot and connect with them, like Connors, Osborn, Octavius. All of them have at some point or another in some form of media formed a connection with Peter because of their shared science love, and that has made the struggle with them more personal.
And a lot of his early comics, like the early ones, like his first like 20 or 30 issues, he beat the villain not because he could just punch them hard enough, but because he found a way to like get around their powers. Like he wore like rubber to deal with Electro and like nullify the electricity, or he found some way to like cause the arms to go haywire.
Yeah, he's a scientist at heart, and that's you can never forget that. But yeah,
I think he sucked Sandman into a vacuum.
I think so. I think you're right. Speaking of like sucking Sandman into a vacuum, though, like the Rogues Gallery for Spider-Man is crazy important as well.
Easily the second most recognizable Rogues Gallery behind Batman.
The thing,
even then, arguably, maybe
I would say more, because Batman has Joker, who I would say is more recognizable than any of Spider-Man's villains, but the average person could probably name more Spider-Man villains than Batman villains now.
Now, yeah, because
Joker's just
would argue
like his profile's so high.
I would argue in terms of legacy now, Batman has the greater. As much as I love Spider-Man, I think Batman does have the greater Rogues Gallery, because a lot of Batman's villains are on par with each other in one way or another. Where some with Spider-Man, like it's Green Goblin, it's Doc Ock, and it's a few others, but like you don't get many Sandman. It was Venom, but you don't get many Sandman stories. You don't get many. Like, there's not much for Electro too often either, you know?
Which there should be. He's great.
Which there should be. But, like, you get plenty. There's, like, I mean, for Batman, there's Joker, Riddler, Two-Face, Bane, Penguin, Mr. Freeze, all those. And some do get more play than others as well, but...
Well, like, we talked about this quite a while ago in the overrated or overused characters with Joker, that he has outshone all of Batman's villains to the point that they feel less important now.
Yeah.
Because everything is somehow tying back to Joker, or makes Joker look better, or let's just do another Joker story. And it's like, okay, but what about literally anyone else? But yeah, Spider-Man has such a deep and recognizable Rogues Gallery, right? Like we already talked about Goblin, you know, is Norman Osborn or Harry Osborn. So it's either his friend or his best friend's dad, right? And
I think it was also smart of Stan and Steve to stick with the animal theme, because that helped stick in people's heads easier. Like Rhino, Vulture, Chameleon,
Scorpion,
all those characters
Octopus.
Really stuck in because it's kept the animal theme, and it's easier for people to pick up and remember.
Yeah, it's goblins are a very popular animal.
They're the true enemy of spiders in the animal theme.
Here's the wild spider. Oh no, a goblin. David Attenborough. No, but like, just, yeah, like memorable encounters with so many different villains, like Venom being such a big player for so long before he finally became a full anti-hero. Carnage is terrifying.
Dude, I actually posed a question to you. Yeah. Do you think Venom now has usurped Norman as his kind of true nemesis?
Venom?
Yeah.
No.
I'd say they're about equal, but I'm not sure who's on top, because I think they're definitely his biggest two.
If we sat down in the 90s and talked about it, maybe. But the thing is they've buried the hatchet now.
Yeah.
They're not enemies anymore. Eddie is just a good guy now. So now, no. Late 90s, I think we could have made that argument. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, before Goblin, it was Ock.
Well, Norman's not an antagonist there right now either.
No, yeah. But with Norman, it always just feels like a matter of time. Until something...
Ock's definitely had a resurgence since Superior. He's definitely risen up the ranks a lot since that era.
No, Ock... I mean, it was Ock until Goblin killed Gwen, and then it was Goblin.
Yeah, then Ock was kind of a joke for a while.
And then Venom rocked up and made things deeply personal and scary. But... it's definitely been those three, but now I think I mean, right now, and this is the topic of another non-Spider-Man related episode, but the quest to utilize as many OCs as possible that has sort of diminished the impact of a lot of regular
Legacy
villains. You know, and I think we're gonna do another episode on that at another time because it's happened with a lot of characters.
Mm-hmm.
But now I definitely think like right now out of the classics, it's got to be Doc Ock. I think for a brief period you could have made the argument of Kraven because Kraven's last hunt was really something. Where Kraven just went nuts on him.
Like one story where he really set out, and from there hasn't really had much at all.
Well, because he's dead.
Yeah. Even before then, he wasn't a big player, honestly, either.
Yeah, he didn't do much, and then he had Kraven's last hunt where he went ballistic and died. And like, you know what? They kept him dead. They haven't brought him back.
Yeah.
And I know some of you are sitting out there being like, but I saw Kraven on a comic book cover. That was a clone.
Or his kid, I think, or whatever, right?
A kid or a clone or something. Kraven the Hunter, the original, is still dead. And has been.
Here's a shocker. Sorry, I got the names wrong, but DeMatteis wrote Kraven's Last Hunt, and that was really good. I thought for a second my brain read that as JMS, but
yeah.
Still, DeMatteis
wrote it, and Zach did the art on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery, there's such a rich history with them there. And like using the Rogues Gallery effectively is really important to an effective Spider-Man story. Unless your idea is really, really good, don't write a new character. Don't.
Yeah, I can't think of too many like modern Spider-Man villains that have really stood out as being memorable or will last.
I mean, Paul's pretty memorable for a modern Spider-Man villain. God damn it, Paul, you stupid sexy Paul.
Spider-Man's greatest nemesis, Paul.
I'm just thinking about like the stupid sexy Flanders from Simpsons. Stupid sexy Paul.
Right.
But no, like Moreland is pretty much the only one who has made any sort of impact. And even that, when Moreland shows up, people are just kind of like, oh, yay.
Is more to the benefit of Spider-Verse taking off so heavily.
Yeah, really like Spider-Verse is great. Moreland is fine.
And the rest of the Inheritors are all, man, like no one remembers anyone but Moreland.
Yeah. Well, it's all better than Judas Traveler. That is the deepest cut I will ever make, is Judas freaking Traveler. If you guys don't know who he is, he's just like the most 90s character, like, ever.
Is that also a band?
Judas Priest is a band.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. But no, Judas Traveler's super weird. I have a comic with him in it, and it's just... I've read it 3 times and it didn't make any sense. This character makes no sense. But, whatever. Yeah, play to the Rogues Gallery. Play with the Rogues Gallery. Do the Sinister Six, right? Like, the Insomniac game, again, did it so well in layering in all these other characters to make...
It was a slow burn to hitting the Sinister Six. It wasn't, like, from the get-go, like, here they are.
But it's like, it was this slowly pieced together thing that made it feel earned and real. And it's like, wow, these guys have inhabited the world. Remember who's inhabited the world. Use them. Speaking...
Mr. Negative actually has been one of the better, like, modern villains.
Pardon?
Mr. Negative's been one of the few modern villains that
Mr. Negative's really cool. And I think that's just because he, again, like we said, like really touches on Peter's personal life.
Yeah.
And
I think that was also JMS again.
Yeah, JMS, man. Freaking, I'm so excited to read that run when it goes on sale.
Yeah.
But speaking of people inhabiting the world, because Colin is the king of segues, the wider heroing community, specifically in New York City, Peter has such a good relationship with them, and that's important.
He should have a good relationship with them, at least.
Character. Like with the Fantastic Four, which, as Jared had mentioned when we were like prepping for this, they were in issue 1 of Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Johnny Storm is canonically his best friend. Like in the hero
not
community.
Best friend, but like a good friend. In the hero community. Yeah.
In the hero community, they're best friends. Like
they're not each other at first, and then they start to get along.
Yeah, because I like for Johnny, I think he was just like he's such a hothead, but I think once he realized somehow it's like, oh, we're clearly this like close to the same age.
He also did think Peter was hitting on Sue.
So. Yeah. And he is such a protective older brother. We love him. But like, yeah, I think once he realized like, wait, we're similar ages. Like, I think that's when they really started to get along. And like, it was to the point that when Johnny died, he had like willed that Peter take his place.
Mm-hmm.
In the
that's why he joined the Future Foundation.
Yeah, which I think is again really, really beautiful and nice. But yeah, like good relations with the wider heroing community. Like, and that includes like cordial, if not more than cordial, relationship with Tony. You know, not to the MCU level, but it's either like they like each other and have like a respectful science banter, or you know he does look up to him as like a fellow scientist who just happens to have a lot of money, and he's like, that's pretty cool, I guess.
Or it's like, you build cool things. That's cool. I like build cool things too.
Yeah. Right. Like I think like idolizing him to that extent's a little much, especially because Peter's older in the comics, but like definitely looking up to Tony as like, you know, like this man is such like a modern day incredible inventor. Like, holy crap.
Well, that's what led to all the events of Civil War.
Yeah.
Was him siding with Tony in that because he felt Tony was a good mentor.
Yeah. And he was until
he knew what he's doing.
Got character assassinated. But yeah, just like, and I think that's something that's kind of bugged me about the Wells run is it by having him shun and fight with other members of the hero community, it's just kind of like, what? That's not him at all, though. They're friends.
No, he's always had good relationships with the other, like especially the straight little heroes like Daredevil,
Cage, Danny, Jessica, Danny.
Yeah. Like, I remember still reading about. There's one. I think it's a great moment one of the comics where it's like. I think he reveals to like the straight little heroes that he's Peter, and it was revealed that Jessica Jones went to high school with him, and she had a crush on him.
Yeah,
he's like, wait, what? He's like, I had no idea. So it looks like, wait, what happened?
Looks like, you better not have a crush on him now, or I'm gonna crush him.
I just thought it was a fun little retcon that she went to school with Peter.
Yeah, that's cute.
No idea.
But like,
he's like, oh man, jeez.
You know, having that relationship with the wider community, he's regularly been called by multiple characters as the best they have, or the best of us, or like Cable said, in the future he's the greatest superhero of all time.
Yeah, he got called to be what was it, the New Avengers? He was on the team.
Yeah, he was in the New Avengers. Weren't really like a call. That was more just like
anyone who's there.
They stumbled together, and Cap was like, "By golly, Tony, it's fate." And Tony's like, I don't disagree.
Yeah.
But like the heroing community respects Spider-Man. Please stop writing him and this is just to anybody, not just to you, Zeb, but to anybody, because I know you're listening, Zeb. I know.
That's what I'm saying. We know you're listening.
I know you're listening. This is to anybody. Stop writing Peter in this way where the superhero community thinks of him as a little kid. He's not. One, most of them don't know his age. Two, they never did know his age. Three, they treat him as an equal.
In the early issues of his run, like with the FF, even they kind of felt he was a kid.
In the early issues, sure. When he was, wet behind the ears, totally. But he is now in canon, using a sliding timescale, been operating as Spider-Man for like at least a decade.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he is well known amongst the hero community now. He has been present for multiple world-changing events. He was in the Secret Wars with everyone. They know him. They're not just going to be like, sorry, Spider-Man, we don't trust you. No one's going to do that now.
Yeah, more often than not, he ends up being in the big events in some way, shape, or form. And honestly, it's gotten to the point where it's odd when he hasn't shown up.
Yeah, so like, please, to anybody writing Spider-Man, remember that. He is well-liked and respected. Emphasis on respected. He's not just some punk kid who showed up moony-eyed staring at everybody.
Understandably, sometimes editorial things, depending on what a character might be going through, it might be weird to have him or like what in the main book, like it can be like it might be odd to get Daredevil to come in if like something big is happening right now or whatever, or it's like or it's like the Fantastic Four are in the negative zone currently in their run of the comics. Right. You can't really have to pull people. I mean, you got to kind of correlate and find out where the state of where everyone is. But it's always fun when they show up, and it's why everyone loves, like in the MCU, every time as it kind of snowballed into being more and more common, when the other characters show up with each other, it's a lot of fun to see them interact because it's chocolate and peanut butter, Yeah. Like it works and it's fun. And Peter has that good relationship with everyone. So it doesn't feel out of place when he can show up or in another character's book or someone else shows up in his.
Exactly.
Like if you have an episode of Spider-Man and Iron Fist shows up, it's just like, oh, cool, Iron Fist is here.
Yeah. And it's why I really emphasize with like, he doesn't need to be everywhere, but when he does show up, the other heroes respect him. They like him. They don't think he's a nuisance. Seriously.
Yeah, it was a great, I don't remember what book it was. It was a great moment where like him and Cap are working together, and then Peter's like, the cops are showing up after they beat the bad guys. He's like, I gotta go. And Cap's like, wait, why? He's like, yeah, the police and I like don't have a good relationship. And then like he kind of finds out about the paper, and he just reams Jonah
Cap.
For yeah.
Nice. See, that's great. Like, because again, superheroes basically judge each other based on character, unless you're Tony, in which case it's looks and money, and then character. But Spider-Man has proven his character multiple times. Stop having him torpedo it to the other heroes just so you can giggle to yourself and write him as a loner. Stop it. Get some help. Stop it.
Nice, Michael.
Thanks, Michael Jordan. Glad to have you here. Glad you took that personally. But yeah, so kind of tying back though to the events, for the most part though, Spider-Man should not be having this like Avengers level threats, to quote Mysterio.
Yeah, that was the weird element near the end of Slot's run when he was kind of like globetrotting when he had the company. It's like he's dealing all over the world and he has like his own like plane and shit.
Spider-Man should be
it's weird.
Small scale New York based threats for the most part. Not I'm not saying exclusively, I'm just saying in general.
Whatever he's facing shouldn't be threatening usually more than just New York itself.
Yeah. Right? Like you can throw one or two in every once in a while, and that's cool. That's fine. But don't do that like exclusively, because then again he loses that relatability.
It's why people had some problems with like with Peter basically faux father Peter becoming Tony basically with like his own company, was because he ended up being it's expanded his realm to being almost global, and that doesn't really for the most part feel like what Spidey should be and what he can do. Like it should be.
Yeah.
Like I said this before to you in our preamble when we were prepping, but like Spider-Man is as tied to New York City as Superman is to Metropolis or Batman is to Gotham and so on and so forth. Like it is his city, and it's where he should operate 90% of the time.
Which goes into another thing we talked about with New York, which is that he's a New Yorker. The New Yorkers love him. For the most part.
Sometimes they hate him, depending on what Jonah's been doing.
Well, some of them hate him because they believe what Jonah puts out. But overall, on the whole, I would say the majority of New Yorkers look at Spider-Man and be like, that's our guy.
Yeah. He represents them better than anyone else.
Like, that's our guy. He's going to stand up for us. Amazing Fantasy 1000. I was talking to Jared about this in the preamble. Has a wonderful story. It's like Peter's like 80th or 75th or whatever birthday, and him and MJ are having dinner, and he has to go before dessert, and he gets beat up by robbers or muggers or because he's old. Okay. Yeah. And they think he's going to die, and he's in the hospital. And the first really nice moment, really wonderful moment is one of the younger nurses or whatever goes take his mask off, and one of the older people is like, no, don't. He's been in here a lot, and we don't take it off. But it's like, but we need to get it off from to breathe. We'll figure it out. We don't take it off. right? Like the doctors just have this rule that you just do not take off Spider-Man's mask. And I love that. But then anyways, Spidey wakes up in the hospital bed, and there's a line from his hospital room, like out the hospital and down the street, of these New Yorkers who were afraid Spider-Man was going to die, lined up to thank him for getting their cat out of a tree, for saving them from a purse snatcher, for always being around, like whatever. He's helped pretty much everyone at some point or another. And that is, it's the Spider-Man one thing, you know? I'll let Jared say the line.
You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us.
Exactly. And that's how New York feels to Spidey. Like, he's one of their own and they treat him that way. And that's really essential, I think, to the character. Is that.
Mm-hmm.
And that his next block, we're actually doing a pretty good job of segueing, which is I'm very happy with. We're not usually this good. Is his compassion. He's always looking out for the little guy because he knows what it's like to be the little guy. You know?
He served as a great mentor to other younger heroes before in previous comics, and they always know, like, the whole Zeb Wells thing again. Like, his relationship with Kamala is really nice because she looks up to Pete. She looks up to Spider-Man and Peter, because I don't think at the time she knew they were the same person.
No,
but she looks up to him, and so does like Miles.
She just thought Peter was a huge dork. It was pretty funny. It's like this guy's like this guy's smart, but he's super weird.
Yeah, like, but the hero, like, they look up to him. Like, it's Miles does, Kamala does, all the younger heroes do, because most, like, aside from like Johnny, a couple of others, most of the other mainstay heroes, they were heroes when they were already adults.
Yeah,
like, they got their abilities when they were adults. Like Hulk did, Tony did, Steve did, like even
and Steve just feels older than everyone else because
like Matt did, Fantastic Four did, aside from Johnny. Like, they were all already adults and can kind of knew what to do with the power. But Peter was only 15 when he got his, so he knows what it's like to be like way in over his head with what he's doing and how to adjust to daily life while having his powers. So he serves as a good mentor and kind of like flag of how to handle things for these younger heroes.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And he inspires them to do the right thing. Like, the best part is that his code rubs off on the other heroes.
Yeah.
Which is very important.
Spider-Man's a character who's so full of compassion, and like, again, that could be attributed to so many things, but like his supporting cast being such a big part of it. Like, May is so inspiring to him. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
In a well-written book, so is MJ.
Yeah.
Which is personally why I loved them having the relationship. You know, I don't think I articulated it terribly well last week. I was most just really kind of like talking about how, it's this insistence on de-aging him. But I think him having a wife and one who loves him despite his guilt and his crushing responsibility, and is always there for him, it stops him from feeling like he's getting kicked in the nuts every week.
Hey, something to go back to.
And I think that's like that's the last thing on our list, is this important sense of Spider-Man where, yes, it's hard. Yes, it sucks. And sometimes he just out and out fails. But there's hope. There's a reason for him to keep going. It is, and this, I'm going to go on a little mini rant here. People who don't understand Spider-Man, and there's a lot of people on social media, have this weird sense that the character needs to be miserable all the time. And that's not it at all.
No, he can be down in his luck, but not like
these people like punch in air rooting that, oh, good, no way home. He has no friends, no family. He's living alone. This is great. This is perfect. I mean, it's a really good setup, but that's also not Spider-Man's like normal status quo. I don't know why you're acting like that is. He usually has lots of friends and family. Like you end up feeling like what people want is Spider-Man who just fails everything. People die. He's alone. He's crying. His credit score is in the negatives. Like, they just want this string of bad luck to happen to him. And they're like, oh yeah, that's Spider-Man. No. Spider-Man he has bad luck, but he still just pushes through and there's still good in his life.
Yeah, like, it's relatable to be down on his luck and have issues, but like, it's weirdly like dark to want that for a fictional character so badly.
It's a little sadomasochistic, I think.
Yeah.
To just be like, good, and now his friends and family hate him. Yeah. Oh, no one remembers him? Yes. Like, why are you so excited about that? Like, again, I agree. It's a really good setup for a comic, but like, you're a little too into this. Dial it back.
Here's some questions.
Yeah. Why do you hate him? You know, it's again, like, I totally get that him being mentored by Tony and having access to all this tech and whatever. Yeah, that's a little much. I agree. Peter's supposed to be a little more, you know, pull himself up by his bootstraps kind of energy. But to want him to suffer constantly, it's not it.
No.
That ain't it. But yeah. That's it. That's our our Spider-Man essentials. GQ. Spider-Man 10 essentials.
Magazine there?
But no, it ties back into why I don't love the Wells run and why it just turned me off of it so bad, because it feels like a lot of those things that we talked about are being ignored.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, he's way too down on his luck for the most part. Like, he got his butt kicked by Tombstone. He was in iron chains that he couldn't break, or stainless steel or titanium or whatever. Spider-Man, he can break anything. He's super freaking strong. His supporting cast all hate him at the beginning. Why? I don't get it. It felt like a lot of these core tenets of the character were being ignored, and I don't think that's good.
Like, without tension, obviously, and without risk.
Oh, yeah.
Tension's lost and things get boring, but there's a balancing act there. You can find, like, you can make it work without it being just one way or the other. Either if everything's perfect or everything's horrible. It's not that hard to kind of find the middle ground. Juggle it, yeah. But yeah, if you guys have anything you think we missed, let us know. If there's anything you disagree with, let us know. Though I feel like what we said is mostly reasonable to the general population. But yeah, we thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next week. See you next time.
Bye.